Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Greg Kimball, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Corporal Jeanette McNeely. We are honoured to acknowledge Mr. Peter Cook Russell, ACT Naval Association, and members of HMAS Sydney Escorts and Vietnam Logistics Support Veterans Association, who are today commemorating the 77th anniversary of the sinking of HMAS Sydney 2. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors and students on behalf of Warwick Senior High School, Warwick, Western Australia. Please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Students, you may be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's first World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them on the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those names on the Roll of Honour, which lists the 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Trooper Thomas Francis Lindsay. Tom Lindsay was born in 1890 to George and Eliza Lindsay. Shortly after he was born, his father was appointed town clerk of the Central Illawarra municipality and remained in that position through the transition to Illawarra Shire and Ballond. Tom grew up on the family property of Kilburney at Unanderra and attended the Wollongong District School before going on to work as a bank clerk. Tom's father was also a keen horseman and a good rifle shot. He taught his sons these skills, and so when Tom enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force in March 1916, he was accepted for service in the Australian Light Horse. He underwent a period of training in Australia before leaving for active service overseas in August 1916, with reinforcements to the 1st Light Horse Regiment. Arriving in Egypt in late September, he continued training before joining the regiment in the field in November 1916. Around the time Trooper Lindsay joined the 1st Light Horse Regiment in the field, the formation had just ended a period of rest and had rejoined the Allied advance across the Sinai. It was involved in fighting to secure the Turkish outposts of Maghada and Rafah, and later served protecting the lines of communication through the Sinai Desert. Later, in 1917, it would fight in the Second Battle of Gaza. Shortly after Gaza fell, Lindsay was relieved and sent for specialist training at the School of Instruction in Zitoun. Trooper Lindsay returned to the 1st Light Horse Regiment on New Year's Eve 1917 and remained with them into 1918. In the first half of the year, he was with his regiment as it participated in a number of important raids. By July 1918, they were near Abu Talul, a prominent hill on the west bank of the Jordan River in Palestine. In the early hours of the 14th of July, the regiment was ordered to stand to arms as the enemy were attacking. Squadrons of the 1st Light Horse Regiment were sent forward, and the German and Turkish attack was fought off. As the sun rose, a troop of the 1st Light Horse was ordered forward to recapture a trench taken by the enemy. Trooper Lindsay did not survive the operation. Lieutenant Jarrett later wrote to Trooper Lindsay's parents, "I, with my troop, was detailed to storm the trench, which was successful. Your brave son fell at my side, shot through the heart, his death being instantaneous. I cannot speak too highly of this splendid work. He was very popular and above all was always a gentleman." Trooper Thomas Lindsay was buried near where he fell in a position overlooking the Jordan River. His body was later reinterred in the Jerusalem War Cemetery, where he lies today. He was 27 years old. In Australia, a family friend published an article in memory of Tom that read, "Tom as a boy was straight and true, reliable and capable. As a youth, he was a clean sport and a fine athlete. As a man, he played a man's part and gave up a promising commercial career to don the honourable khaki. Many who passed him on the street would turn again to look at such a fine specimen of Australian manhood. And well they might, for he was one of the finest. Thomas Francis Lindsay, in the truest sense of the words, was both a soldier and a man. May he rest in peace." His name is listed on the Roll of Honour to my right, amongst more than 62,000 Australians who died whilst serving in the First World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Trooper Thomas Francis Lindsay, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old as we
that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening.